your best thoughts there. So to pick up on that point, he's talking about the gain line, that they struggled to get over it, and England didn't struggle to get over it. On the point about the bigger men that you're making, Ronan, what should Ireland have done in that scenario? What do you do when you're losing the gain line?
You don't do very much in terms of winning or losing the gain line, Joe. It's a result of what happens. So if you lose the gain line, the ball is going to be slow. If you win the gain line, the ball is very fast. You saw Ben Young's probably played his best game, I think, kicking game and running game for England I've seen in probably the last 5 years. I think, interestingly, what Rory said there is that they turned us a lot, which implied that his own probably halfbacks didn't turn them. And from a forward, when they get up off the ground, they want to see the ball in front of them at times, and they also want to see the game played in the right areas of the pitch. Didn't happen today because England won the collisions. When you win the collisions, you win the game. Yeah.
Like on that point, if you look at territory, Matt, you know, 63% of the game in Ireland's half, 21% of the game in Ireland's 22. Ireland spent about 10-11% of the game in the English 22. They couldn't seem to get from their own half almost into the English half, and certainly not into the English 22.
Look, we just got to put our hands up, say we got our bums smacked well and truly by a superior team. Now, in the long run, that's probably going to be good for us. Teams don't win 2 Grand Slams in a row for a reason. Teams don't put all these wins together for a reason. It's hard. But everyone probably needed a bit of grounding. The nation, the players, the boys, everyone. So they got it. But let's also not dodge the truth. We were out-thought. Right? First things were outplanned. Sexton hasn't played in a month. Johnny should have played. We played a fullback who hasn't played a game there in 4 years. He's only played 60 minutes since November. He looked, I've seen Milk turn faster than Robbie was turning today. He didn't look ready to play that position because there's so much running in being a fullback. England kicked us off the park. Our back three had a bad day. Now, Keith Earls, we were saying before the game, I think Keith Earls is in the form of his career, and he made a couple of bad blues today. They targeted his wing, and they went for him, and it was successful. You heard a prop say our wingers were sensational. How many times have you ever heard a prop say his wingers were sensational? They wouldn't even know they were on the field. They were very good. Their line speed took us out of the game. We saw Furlong getting driven backwards 2 or 3 times. I haven't seen that in 3 years, 4 years. The New Zealand couldn't do it on the Lions tour, but they did it. So we've got to go back and just say, on every front, their enthusiasm, their energy, their chasing game, their physicality, their pre-game planning. Everyone said, I've been in Portugal for a couple of weeks and they're coming up, it's late. They got it right. And we've got to put our hand up and say that.
I think the enthusiasm and physicality was something that was missing, and it was noticeable. Even the verbals of the English team, you could hear them screaming and roaring in every ruck and slapping each other on the back, and they had much more opportunity to do that just because Ireland weren't having those moments. But there was a stubbornness to the way Ireland played. The stubbornness, especially when in that second half, when we were deep in our own territory, an unwillingness to kick the ball off first phase, that's when the space was. Even if it was off a second receiver, we could have kicked it and made ground. Instead, we went into a pattern whereby we were getting knocked behind the gain line, not making much yards, and then being forced into kicking the ball from the base of the ruck as a box kick. The accuracy of the box kick wasn't what we would come to expect from Conor Murray, but England had already numbers dropped back there, so it was not the time to actually kick the drop and to employ the box kick. So from a tactical perspective, we were compounding our own errors and making life more and more difficult. And at the same time, things were getting better and better for England, because when we were trying to run, when the ball is slow and we're stationary, and they can then get off the line. And Matt did a whole segment before the game about the corridor of power. England absolutely dominated. We never got a look in.
We will look at it after the break, but very briefly, on the forward pass, in case people are jumping up and down about that, on 65 minutes, Ireland were only behind by 4 at that stage. You don't think it was forward?
No. The law says a forward pass is when you propel the ball towards your opponent's dead ball line. The ball is allowed to travel forward. Don't want to get too technical, but Newton's law of inertia, when you're running at a speed, the ball's going to go at that speed. It is allowed to travel forward, but this is the point. He was offside. So the pass was good, but he was in front of the kicker by a metre. If it had reviewed, I think that would have got called back.
It was a super pass. It was absolutely beautiful pass. And that was reviewed, but it wasn't reviewed on the second angle as far as I know. A bit of hasty. That's not the issue, though.
No,
it's not the issue. England were winning this game anyway.
Yeah,
great play like that should be rewarded.
I agree.
It's sensational.
It'd be wrong if we as Irish supporters claim, hang on that, because we got beaten.
That's not the reason. So a reality check, according to Joe Schmidt, made a number of points there that tally actually a lot with what you're all saying.
Yeah, I think this Irish team isn't used to being in that position, and we didn't react very well on the pitch, and we didn't react very well off the pitch either. I think we said at half-time that Ireland needed to change things up. Tactically, they needed to change things up. I think with personnel, they needed to change things up. Robbie Henshaw, 15, wasn't working. Bundy Aki wasn't passing the ball very well. It was a simple change they could have made there. I think we should have seen Dave Kilcoyne on earlier, we should have seen Sean Cronin on earlier, we should have seen Sean O'Brien on earlier, and Joey Carberry on earlier. And I think, you know, we were in a situation where we were hoping things would rectify themselves without actually making significant tactical or personnel changes to allow that to happen.
Yeah, he talked about, well, struggling to get over the gain line and then getting sucked into overplaying in their own half and then losing the aerial battle as well, and it seemed like every facet of the game crumbled around them.
The game was in Ireland's half. Only got into England's 11% of the game. I think we all, again, the kicking game, their kicking game was dominant, but we kicked badly. It's one of the only times I've seen us kick badly. And then at times, so between the Ireland 22 and halfway, so in other words, on Ireland's side of halfway, 42% of the game was played there. And we've pointed out, Johnny should have kicked us out of that into the territory. Shane has already pointed out it should have been done off set play. And we're used to Connor Murray being the best box kicker in the world, and he just had a bad day with a boot. You know what? They're human beings. That happens. And again, one thing I take out of Jason's, because it's so hard to speak like that. You're gutted, you put your heart and soul into it. But he's got it in perspective. It's a learning curve and a reality check. It's not the end of the world. It's disappointing, but it is a good reality check at this point of this year.
Yeah. He really cited the aerial battle there. We'll look at the physical dominance in a moment, but Ronan, talk us through the English kicking game. What did they do so well that Ireland weren't quite managing to do?
It's very easy, Joe. If you win collisions, okay, your best kicking options are when you have a running option. If you don't win collisions, you don't have a running option, so you got to kick it. But if you want to kick the ball and you don't win collisions, they can have 3 and Billy Villan-Paul in the backfield all day. So all of a sudden, if you win a collision, you're on the front foot, so you can either play ball in hand or you can actually kick it. If you don't win collisions, it's a 5-second ruck, which means people in the backfield can actually retreat and hold it, and the front line, there's no threat because the ball isn't quick.
Yeah, we'll have a look at some examples here then.
Well, this started all day. I think people at home don't appreciate how difficult that is to put that in a sixpence. What it does actually, it completely changes the exit from Ireland's point of view. Why does it do that? Because you land the ball 3 metres from the touchline. Your touchline is a defender for you. You need to have 1 English player on the far side of the ruck, which means you have 13 in the front line. Ben Young's kicked accurately in the 5-metre channel all day. Breaking ball, England won scraps. Their body language is really impressive. As the guy said here, they came here to do an operation, a smash and grab, but they were so dominant in every aspect. It was more than a smash and grab. Their decision making, their vision, their skills were top notch. In the 5-metre channel again, breaking ball, scraps won by England to feet. Very, very aggressive. You look at this, it's just 5-metre channel on a right foot to right touchline. Tries a banana, doesn't come off, free ball to England, into Noel, and Noel just, his metres after contact today were incredible. How many times did he get on the ball? He was like a second 9 or a back row playing on the wing with such a good carry. And there's Slade, he's a left-footed naturally, just tipping it onto his right foot, put Henshaw on his poor foot, and you get days like this. It was,
from that line-out when they scored.
And really smart play there. You know, just pulling a full-back that's not used to playing a full-back, you know, across either side of the field and then kicking a ball in behind. Really smart. Going after Keith Earls, who, you know, of all his qualities, you know, dominance in the air probably is, and one of them, there was always a mismatch there with May, but they went after him and after him and after him. And I know he got injured, but, you know, and he got some barracking, but we just saw those clips. They were all fair enough.
Fully fit Rob Kearney changed that game?
I think so, yeah, but just to expand on Shane's point that he made before the game, I think it's going to be, you know, we had a choke tackle that was huge in the game probably 24, 36 months ago. It's all about the line speeds. Now, I think this attack and kicking game is going to revolutionise what happens kind of 40 metres into the goal line because you can see with the skill levels, even we'll talk about Farrell, Slade today, they can put the ball where they want to, and as a result, how many tries came off it?
Yeah, Elliot Daly as well, and just it saps the energy. You know, when you just think you've got a defensive wall, you've got a line speed off, but hang on a second, who's in behind? So there's a rethink to be done by defensive coaches. Unless you're incredibly dominant with your defensive tackle and you're knocking people behind the gain line and behind the gain line, you actually have to think slightly differently, and you have to ask more of your wingers again. It's an easy time for wingers in defence at the moment because they're just saying stay up and take the space. Whereas a few years ago there was much more of a pendulum effect, and you have to work a lot harder.
England played a bit like Ireland had done in previous games today, in terms of their hunger, their work rate, their setting first, their body language. How many times did we see Johnny on the ground today? They went after him and they got joy out of it, and Farrell played with a napkin on him. He was like a prince out there.
We'll show it later, but every time Johnny passed, he got knocked, so he couldn't get around and support. And again, and there was plenty of talk. The English back row, every time they hit him, they were talking to him, saying, "I'm coming to you." And Johnny hasn't played in a month. He had a bad game. He didn't get a second touch on the ball, I don't think, all game, which is one of his trademarks. You know, again, all these aspects.
It was good
planning and thinking.
Sorry,
no. We're just saying it's planning, thinking, and execution.
Yeah, last point.
I was interested in the way about Joe said about abrasive.
Yeah, we need to be more abrasive next week. He said.
Oh, he's hopping mad. He's hurt. He's shocked at his players. I think.
I agree.
You know, you look at O'Mahony, you look at Stander, you look at Van der Fleer, like Curry had a big game.
Were they a bit shocked by what England brought? Maybe.
Of course they were, and it's easy for us sitting here, but Shane and myself can tell you, you know straight away, like as you said to me, I don't have a good feeling about this in 10 minutes. You could see by the body language, England were here. This was what they had kind of planned for the whole month, and there was massive buy-in from the players. I think they had a great plan, and when you have fellas like the two Vunipolas, it changes things into a laggy.
It's very difficult to turn that momentum in the game as well. You can feel it. You can feel it because it's like a boxer. The more punches you take, the more difficult it is. But while you're given the punches, the better you feel.
Yes.
So it's just a cycle, a downward cycle. And to be honest with you, Ireland never really looked like turning that around.
Okay. More